Tonight, releasing the APFL schedule. We've had our second post-draft waiver wire run in the APFL, and the preseason ranking survey is still open. All of this and more in 20 seconds. Hey, fellow fanatics, welcome to the Fanatically Real broadcast, sponsored by Nature Coast Tailgating Apparel, the official apparel of the FSA. Words are hard tonight for whatever reason. I have no idea why. It's probably because I should probably read that intro a couple more times before I decide to go live. But rather than just have my talking head on here tonight and worry about my words, we're going to bring in Hall of Fame member Jason Hazlett. Jason, how are you?
Oh,
Yeah, you're right. I don't know if you've seen this look before or not. That is a good looking hat you have on there.
yeah, it's a very old school.
I like that.
Probably late 90s, early 2000s.
Where'd you get that hat? Do you remember?
I don't remember. Years.
Yeah, you're old. That's why.
I like your hat, though, man.
What's up?
I like your hat.
You like this? Oh, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So check this out. So one of my new hats came in today. Braves in this one. It was a series of 3 that I recently bought. The other one was the Houston Astros. And man, I wish I had that one close. I'd swap it on real quick so everybody could see it. When we talk about old school, it is the 1980s Astros logo with the old Astrodome on it, with the baseballs going around it like the NASA logo or whatever it is that was supposed to be. And I looked for that hat for quite a while. And every time I went to go buy it, every site that I went to, it would say 8 remaining. By the time I put it in the cart, try to get ready to pay it, it'd say, oh, they're all gone. So I went to a site. God, I don't even have the box up here with me to even be able to look at it and tell you what the site is. Rally House. Rally House was the name of the site. And they also said that they had 8 of them left. And I thought, oh, here we go again. I'm going to put that in the cart, and then they're going to be gone by the time I got there. And I put it in the cart. I paid for everything, the Atlanta, the Houston, this one, and one more. I'll tell you that story in a second. It literally, the order was filled in 16 minutes after I pushed submit. So they had the hat. So, and it was the first one to come. It came last week sometime late, like Saturday or something like that. Actually, it might have come on Mother's Day now that I think about it. And then these 2 came today. And I didn't want the new Guardians C, kind of like, it looks like the old Cleveland C, just a little bit of change, right? So I saw this one, and actually when I saw it on the screen, I thought, man, that looks like it's just it's a patch that's embroidered onto the hat. And I think I told you before we got started tonight that this is probably the best stitched hat that I own in all of my collection of, I think I'm at 100 and I think these 2 hats tonight put me at 115 hats now or something like that. But it's like done in triple layers. The colors on it are really nice. It's just it's a really cool looking hat. So that's why I wanted to wear it tonight. So yeah, and then the other hat that I got, there's 4 hats that I actually ordered. The other one was a Toronto Blue Jays hat that I had actually seen in a store. But the only one they had in my size had a defect on the eye of the Blue Jay. And what it is, it's an all gray hat, and the logo itself is all stitched in the same color gray. So it's kind of just like a 3D print. And the only color on it is a blue outline all the way around it, the Toronto Blue Jays blue. And it looks really, really cool. And they had plenty of them left, supposedly, on the website. But when I went to go put it in my cart, it said, we don't have any of those left. So I'm still going to go try to find a way to get that one because I really liked it. It's just a cool looking hat. So I got you here tonight because I need somebody's outside feel to the APFL, because you play in the redraft, to ask questions tonight for something, because I know if you have questions, others have questions, because we are doing the APFL schedule reveal tonight. Drum roll, not probably as clear, probably not as cool as the NFL release, but I wanted to make sure that we got this out there. So the plan was to wait until we got all of the graphics created for this, all of the team schedules, the conference schedules, and everything like that before we push it. That could be a while before I get that done. I don't want anybody to wait on that anymore. And because it's done, the hard work is done. I wanted to make sure that everybody who's in the APFL got to see this. So I wanted to kind of do a reveal of all of it tonight, visuals and talk through as well. So literally, let's see, the NFL released its schedule on Thursday. On Friday, I got right to work. And it wasn't even Friday. I think it was even Thursday on Discord, chatting with Toby Keller, who was the general manager of the Detroit Pride in the APFL. Huge help. He was a huge help last year, a bigger help this year because his brain was just working overtime to help me with the thought process of this. And the hard skeleton or the outer crust of all of this was really his idea. And then I just kind of massaged it as we worked our way down to the week by week schedule. So I got to thank Toby. So Toby, I know you're probably not watching this tonight. If you're going to watch this later, there's your shout out. You're going to get it a couple more times too. So one of the things that we wanted to do with the APFL schedule this year is we wanted to make sure that we worked around the bye week. So bye week's a little bit different than this year than what we're used to seeing. So I'm going to pop that up on the screen and show everybody. And I don't know how much anybody can see that. So let's see if we can zoom in a little bit on the weeks that really matter. Let me see if I can move this around just a tiny bit there. I don't know if you can see that. Let's see if we can pop our faces out of here and see if that looks a little bit better for the viewing audience. So Toby's idea was
anything's better than looking at our face the whole time.
Absolutely true. Can you see that okay on your side?
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
All right, so as long as you can see it, so definitely better than looking at our faces. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to make sure that we worked the APFL schedule around the NFL's bye schedule this year. A little bit odd this year of having a no buys on week 8 and no buys on week 12. I think the week 12 thing is going to become a regular thing for them because that's Thanksgiving week. I think that all teams play during that Thanksgiving week now. It's kind of been the trend in the last couple of years.
I feel like week 5 is early.
So it hasn't been for the last couple of years. It really has been like that. Like if they ever asked a fantasy commissioner's opinion, this is not how I would do it. But of course, they've got to make money. This is not best for fantasy, that's for sure. I think I made the comment maybe in the APFL chat, because I don't know if you're in there or not, last year, that if it was up to me, it would be 4 teams every single week. We would shrink when that is. We started a little bit later and finish it a little bit sooner. These weeks where you only have 2 teams off, or have a week like a week 12, which I kind of understand, where there's no teams off, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But yeah, week 5 is a little early, right? So what we were trying to do was work around the buys this year. And what we wanted to do was make sure that the games that are the most important got played during the times where there was no or very little buys. And I'm going to bring us back up here for just a second. Let's see what's the best way to do this. Probably this way. Okay, we'll leave us there for a second. No, let's do this. See us just a tiny bit better. So what we wanted to do was make sure that the most important games were when there were the least amount of buys. So in this case, Toby and I talked, and we thought the games that are most important are your divisional games, of course, because you play everybody inside your division twice. And then your strength of schedule games. Why are those so important? Because all of your strength of schedule games are played against 3 other teams in your own conference. And when we go to do tiebreakers, conference is one of those tiebreakers. So your conference record is important. So we wanted to make sure that the least amount of buys that could happen were happening then. And then when the most buys are happening, or an aggregate of that, however many buys, which we'll talk about in a second, are played during your interconference games. That's when you as an AFC team are playing a whole division on the NFC side and vice versa. So what we wanted to do was take advantage of those buys in weeks 1 through 4. In week 6, there's only 2 teams off. Take advantage of that. And then 8 and 12, because there's no buys then, right? And we wanted to make sure that you played every single one of your divisional opponents, all 3 of them, before we got into buys of week 5. So we had 4 weeks to try to get that satisfied. Now, one of the things that Toby and I went back and forth about was, and I agreed with him until you look at the NFL schedule, was I don't really want to start the first 2 weeks of the season off playing bye game, right? Or division game. But it so worked out that we were also still trying to match NFL games, that there were a lot of divisional games happening in week 2 and not a lot in week 3. So the original thought was the divisional games were going to be 1, 3, and 4. And you'll see here in a second when we get ready to do it, actually ends up being 1, 2, and 4, because it matches the NFL schedule a little bit better. We could have had a lot more NFL games match if we had played an interconference game in week 8 on that week with no buys. However, because there was 9 NFL games that we could have matched, but because there's no buys, we wanted to make sure that that was a divisional game. So we made that a division game. And then a couple of the remaining weeks after we got the divisional games in, and once we got a couple of the strength of schedule games in, there were a couple of weeks that just have 4 teams off that are left in there. So it was more of it could be a strength of schedule or it could be an interconference game. What we're going to end up doing is just let the NFL schedule dictate that. Whatever game we could match up the most of, that's what we were going to do for that week. So, and we'll show you that whenever we do the whole thing.
What's a strength of schedule game? How do you determine those?
Okay, so good question. So last year was our first year of doing this, right? So we didn't really know what the strength of schedule was going to be. And somebody in their infinite wisdom, and I wish I could remember who it was, I'll probably give the idea to Damian Gratz, but I don't know if it was him. It could have been Matt Furby. It could have been a number of guys, but for some reason, Damian Gratz's name sticks in my head. That's the guy we went and had dinner with at Dave & Buster's when I was up there in Ohio. Right. I think it was actually his idea for this. So strength of schedule in the first year was we were still trying to match the NFL's strength of schedule. So what the NFL does is they will play everybody else inside their conference of the other 3 divisions that are not divisional opponents in the same position of where they finished in the standings from the previous year. So first place team in the AFC West would play the East, North, and South first place team as their strength of schedule. So that's what we used during the first year last year of this. And in their infinite wisdom, what they decided to do was, why don't we do strength of schedule of our own, which would make more sense from a fantasy standpoint. So if you finish first in your division, you play all of the other first place teams. Now, what does that do? It makes it very difficult to match NFL schedule with that unless the same teams end up being in the same spot for strength of schedule, right? And it still happened. We were able to get a couple of strength of schedule games, and you'll see that whenever we roll that over. But that's how we did it in year 2, and that's how we'll do it moving forward. My original thought was that 14 weeks schedule, and what we were going to do with strength of schedule wasn't even going to be important. We were going to do everybody inside your division twice, at least one whole division on your side of the conference, so if you're AFC team, another AFC division, and then the NFC division, if you're an AFC team, one whole conference. And what we're doing with that one is we do match that to the NFL schedule. So if I'm the AFC East, and I'm pretty sure the AFC East is playing the NFC East, I think this year, we'll have to look at that on the schedule, then that's who I would play this year as well. That way we could try to match up even more schedule. But I think it was Damian Gratz that said, let's do the strength of schedule. Forget about the AFC side of the house, because then you're still going to play 3 out of 4 games anyways inside your conference. So let's make it strength of schedule as it applies to the fantasy side of the house. And I don't always know the right answer, but when I hear it, I know it right away. And in that case, I knew that was the way we should move forward. So that's how we did it this year. So all of this talk of us trying to match our schedule with the NFL schedule, let me tell you how we did this year compared to last year. So last year, we had one whole week where we matched 0 games, and we had 37 matchups where our games matched up with the NFL. This year, we had 2 whole weeks where there were no matchups, and we were still able to match 48 games this year. We could have matched more, like I said earlier, except for that week 8 whole thing where we could have got like 9 more conference games. We decided to make that a divisional game. I think next year, Toby and I talked about it on the way home tonight. We can make it even a little bit more sexy next year, where we might be able to have divisional games and strength of schedule games, or even conference games mixed inside the same week. And if we do that, we might be able to match the NFL game a little bit better. One of the things that I realized this year as I was building this schedule, if you do the thing like a Sudoku puzzle, and you say, well, this team's got to play this team, so that's got to be this team versus this team kind of thing, and you do it a team at a time or a division at a time, it really does play itself out. And I'm able to match more NFL games that way, which is why I was able to get 11 more this year than I did last year. So the only probably bad thing in this schedule, the only thing that still bothers me, and we're just going to have to live with it this year, and maybe we can make it better next year, is we want the last game of our regular season on the fantasy side to be a divisional game, because there could be some divisional matchups that are still, effective, the thing. And I think the NFL does the same thing when they're playing in week 17 or week 18. It's got to be like all divisional, right? But for us, as you're looking at this schedule, that's week 13. That's 6 teams off. But everybody's dealing with the same problem. So when I built the schedule, I tried to make sure that was kind of an even kill there as well, where if Team A and Team B were playing against each other, they both had quite a bit of off that same week. So it wasn't an easy win for somebody as we're coming up to the end of the season. And then the other thing, week 14 is our first week of our playoffs. And you have 2 teams off, Arizona and Washington. I don't know if that's that big of a deal. I can think of probably 3 or maybe 4 people that really get affected by that players. But I think that's kind of a push. That's like a no-brainer. Yeah. But one of the things that I'm going to show you here in just a second, and I'll explain to you what you're going to see on the chart. What we were able to match this year, the 2 weeks we were able to match the most of. Week 1 of the season has a lot of divisional games in it on the NFL side. We were able to match that as much as possible because it's the opening week for us. We can almost do whatever. We were able to match 8 NFL games in week 1. And then in week 12, which is that open week that you see right there, which I believe is Thanksgiving week, we were able to match 10 games in that week. So what I want to do is I want to pull that chart up for everybody and kind of explain that. Tell me if you can see that one okay. That's not what we want you to see. That's something completely different, and I'm not sure why that popped up. I don't even know where the other chart went now. It just went bye-bye. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to see if we can figure out how to pull that back up again. Is this it? That looks like it's it. Okay, cool. I don't know how the heck that happened. We don't want anybody to see that chalkboard yet, right? That's
right. At least.
Yeah, at least you know about the chalkboard, so you can see it. You know what's up. Hopefully everybody can still read that. I know it gets a little blurry as I zoom in a little bit more, but here's the schedule for 2023, okay? So give you kind of a lay of the land. What you're seeing across the top is, of course, the week numbers, and then what you're seeing is a letter next to each one of those. What that letter stands for is D for divisional. And you know what? Just to make sure nobody needs to see our faces, they can see it a little bit better this way too. Yeah. D is for divisional. S is for a strength of schedule game. And then C is for that interconference game. What you see in green all the way horizontal are the games that we were able to match to the NFL games. So as you can see, when I told you earlier, there was 2 whole weeks. Maybe it didn't end up being 2 whole weeks. Oh, yeah, week 13, week 6. I'm sorry. Week 13 always kind of gets blurred out there because it's the last thing. Week 6 and week 13, no matches whatsoever. We were still able to match 48 games this year. And then what you see is the other color codes that are in the middle where the V is at for versus. What that is, that's your divisional games. So where the color code is at matches the same game against the same opponent later on in the season in the week that matches that color code, if that makes any sense. And I'll break it down for you a little bit more. So in week 1, all of these are this dark green color. In week 8, all of them are this red color. That's because week 8 and week 1 schedule exactly the same. So who you played in week 1 is who you're going to play in week 8, okay? So in week 2, all of these ones that are in blue, you're going to play that same opponent again in week 13. The 4 that happen to be in purple, you're going to play them in week 12. And then in week 4, the ones that you see in purple, you're going to play in week 12. The ones you see in blue, you're going to play in week 13. And then you could see where the yellows would be week 2 games and the oranges would be week 4 games. Actually, a little bit less taxing this year than it was last year because I was able to match week 1 and week 8 completely. But by doing it this way, I was also able to get as many games as you see matchups right there with all of the solid green across the line, 48 games. So there's the schedule. We will play divisional games in week 1 and 2, strength of schedule game week 3, divisional game in week 4. So you're getting all of your divisional opponents before that first bye week. Then we go into a conference game week 5, strength of schedule week 6, conference game week 7. That week 8, which would have been a great conference week for us because the NFL has 9 games that week, but we knew it was a no bye week, so we decided to put another divisional game there. Week 9 conference game, Week 10 strength of schedule game, Week 11 conference game, and then we finish up the season. That Week 12 game with no buys in it because I think that's Thanksgiving, and then Week 13 because we always want to have that divisional game, the last game of the season. Now, what does all of that mean to you right now? This weekend, I will start putting the graphics together for these, and I will start releasing them at a minimum first to everybody on Discord, and then everybody will see it that way. So you're on the outside looking in. I've talked for about 20 minutes and 30 seconds straight. Other than the strength of schedule, which is a very good question, what other kind of questions you've got?
Oh gosh, I mean, I like it. It seems pretty straightforward. I like the color coding. I would suggest releasing this to all the GMs so they can see it, but having a color code legend
over the side so everybody knows what that is. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because what I could do is I can put the legend on there and then I can put it out there on Discord tomorrow so everybody can see. I'm hoping that more people are going to watch this. What I've been doing, and I think you have access to this room on Discord, I'm not sure, but I do have a broadcast channel now inside there, and then it's 2023, and I've been putting the link in there, so I'm hoping people go back and watch it later so they can see this. But a legend is a very good idea. I will definitely do that. That way, in case somebody doesn't want to listen to my mouth and see our faces, if they just want to go straight to the schedule and look at it, they'll be able to see that.
The other thing I would suggest doing, if there's any way to put the buys in there, what teams are in on the NFL buys.
I like that.
Because I could see GMs using this to help their strategy for starting lineups against other teams.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. They can. Yeah. So that's a good idea. What I'll do is I'll take that other image that I don't want to click on right now because I'm afraid the green chalkboard will pop up again. I'll pump that out there as well. I saved that. Kevin put that out there for us in the community chat the other day when I said, hey, has anybody seen this bye-week schedule? Yeah. And he posted it really, really quick. And, the week 8 and week 12 thing really threw me. Not the week 12 so much because I kind of get it. The NFL is maximizing on the amount of people that could be watching TV on Thanksgiving that they're doing that. Something new this year is that the Black Friday game, right? So I think we talked about it maybe a little bit last week when we did the NFL schedule reveal, which was pretty light reveal because I didn't even get a chance to watch it, was some of the different types of games that are going on this year, Black Friday games, right? We know when the Nickelodeon game is going to be, at least one of them is going to be on Christmas. And I've said it a couple of times in the chat group, there is no lack of smart people in NFL's marketing group. That is for sure. Yeah, and they are going to find every way that they can to maximize the dollars. Yeah. So I'll put us up this way because I think we're done with screens for tonight. But yeah, they lack zero in the marketing department. That is for sure. They do a very good job of maximizing the dollars.
Yeah. I just thought you don't have the Red Stallions versus not the Cowboys.
I thought that was great. So somebody put a graphic up in there about the different number of views with Tennessee Titans released was number one at 7.2 million views or something like that. And the next closest team was 5 million views behind it. And it's kind of cheesy that the Colts came behind Atlanta and did what they did, and they kind of try to ride on their coattails. But both of them equally still funny. Atlanta definitely being the funniest. What makes me laugh when I watch that video, and I'm so glad whoever was that posted it on Discord, they didn't watch it at first. And then I went back and watched it, was how she called them the Red Stallions, but then went rare, like it was a cat or something like that. That was the part that got me that was really funny. Like, that was just awesome. Tennessee definitely got it this year. They'll be the one to watch for next year to see if they do something equally as cool next year. And so it's another topic that we ran at the top of the show tonight was the second preseason post-draft waiver wire for the APFL has ran. We had 5 teams take advantage of that this week. So I wanted to kind of give everybody a little bit of schedule what that's going to look like as we're moving into the regular season. So we're going to continue doing this on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. East Coast time until the 2nd of August. That Wednesday will be the last run that we do because the 3rd of August is the Hall of Fame game, and it's the Jets versus the Browns, right? This is the year that you sent me. Okay. So that's happening this year, Jets versus Browns, Hall of Fame game on the 3rd of August. We start doing our roster cuts the very next Wednesday then. So on the 9th of August, we do our first roster cut, which we have to cut our rosters from 24 to 22, drop 2 people. And then we're doing that every single week. So 13 August is the last game for week 2 preseason. 16 August, which is that Wednesday, we will cut 2 more. And then on the 21st of August, which is week 3 for the NFL's preseason, that's 23 August for us on Wednesday, we'll do another cut from 20 to 18, which will be our final cuts. We won't do any more moves until the 30th of August, which is the next week. It'll be another set of moves, but then we will also open up first come, first serve, which we haven't done all off season. And then we will do that until the night before opening night. So opening night this year is 7 September. So 6 September, we'll do one more run, and then we will shut everything off until after the first week of the season. And then we'll open it all back up just like we will all year, where it'll be waiver wire move every day, free agent acquisition budget, first come, first serve, got to bid at least a minimum of $0, which I know that sounds weird to say bid a minimum of $0, but it's a thing. I hope Bill Minot's not out there watching right now because he hates that rule. In fact, you know what? I just realized, Bill, if you are watching this later, I did see that I missed a call from you like a day or two ago, so I do owe you a call. So just give everybody kind of the schedule, what that looks like for the waiver wire for the rest of this offseason for us. And if I need to copy paste that and put that in Discord, I will as well. I'm just hoping more people watch this. Then the other thing that we mentioned was the preseason survey. So
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how many of the teams still have inactive players on their roster.
I have one.
Ezekiel Elliott.
I have 2 then. I forgot about it. So I wouldn't call him inactive. He's still a free agent right now, which blows my mind that he still hasn't been picked up by somebody and didn't something happen during draft time and, post-draft and whatever. But I also still holding on to Brady onto my roster as well too. So Brady is at least my first cut when I got to get down to 2. And there's probably going to be another one of the wide receivers that I picked up late last year. I think I got a Denver wide receiver, like 5th on the depth chart or something like that. I'll probably drop him. But yeah, that's going to be fun. So something that we are still doing, reflective of what the NFL usually does, is they will do roster cuts from like 90 to something, and then that number to something until they get down to 53, right, before the season starts. They are doing 1 week of cuts, and I think it's like August 29th. I did not write the date down this week, but I did like a week or 2 ago. Where they're doing
the season.
Yeah, it's like 1 week. They're cutting everybody. Right. So for us, that's going to be a free agent frenzy on our side, I think, which is going to be super cool. It'll be just like what the NFL was doing. So we're still going because the rules were already written about how we were going to do the roster cuts down like this at 2 every single week, systematically for everybody, and then to give everybody a chance to jump on the free agent market. I think next year, if the NFL keeps it 1 week of cuts, then we'll probably do the same thing. That way, when it's time to do free agents just before or after week 1 happens, it'll be crazy on our side too. But yeah, I'm not the only one holding on to people, I'm sure. I haven't looked across all of the rosters, but I definitely know that I've got Brady and Zeke sitting on my roster.
So not to give up too much strategy that you may have, but what are your thoughts on keeping a player like Ezekiel Elliott long term?
I will tell you from lessons learned, it's so funny that you asked this question. The very first draft successful season that we had, I think, was 95. I have to go back and check to make sure that I'm not lying when I say this. I drafted Zeke with the number 1 overall pick. That was the year Zeke held out, I think, up until about week 4, I think it was, for contracts. So not Zeke, Emmitt Smith. So that goes back to my bad.
I'm trying to think. Zeke was at a
lesson learned. Emmitt Smith. Emmitt Smith did that to me, and I think like by week 3, I didn't think he was going to sign. I thought he was going to hold out all year, and I let him go. And I think the person who ended up picking him up won that year. So I am okay holding on to a roster spot for him for quite a while. In this league, we only start 7 every single week, I think it is. So for me to have a roster of 18 to be able to hold on to him for 9 spots isn't a big deal to me. I did a pretty good move in the offseason to pick up Josh Jacobs. So I have him. to be able to run every week if I need to, and I only need to run one running back, so I'm okay to hold on to him for a while. We'll see how that we'll see how my team plays out, because during that move to get Josh Jacobs, I had to give up a fairly decent wide receiver, but I did pick up what I think are 4 great rookies for this upcoming year that I hope will fill that spot with him. Hopefully one of them will be good enough to make Rookie of the Year, because I think of the 4 guys I got, at least in the personal rankings and all of the other rankings that I've looked at, I got 4 out of the top 9 wide receivers out of this class.
Yeah.
So
I understand you were inspired by the movie Draft Day.
I was. So somebody put a picture cut off. Kevin Costner said, put my head on it. I thought it was pretty funny because I don't normally do stuff like that, but I was in a couple of spots where I really wanted to go after a couple of wide receivers. I got 4 out of the top 9, and I made a couple of deals to make that happen. And in the long run, I think it still worked out in my favor because I had 5 picks. With that Josh Jacobs move that I made, I ended up acquiring 2 more picks. So my 3 went to 5, and I still, at the end of the draft, made 5 picks. The one thing I did have to give up, though, was a 3rd-round pick next year and a 1st-round pick next year. But I did turn that 3rd-round pick into a 2nd-round pick next year. So I get 2 out of 3 picks, but they're both in 2nd round. So I'm going to have to work myself this year, giving too much strategy away right now. I got to work myself this year. Yeah, we're going to work myself this year into getting myself my 1st-round pick or somebody's 1st-round pick next year so I can get one. But all of that, like giving away strategy and all of that stuff, and trying to figure out how my team balances against everybody with 4 rookie wide receivers on it, we have decided to do this preseason survey to kind of do a preseason ranking of each one of the teams in the APFL. And it's more of a novelty thing than anything, but I think it'll be cool to release it to everybody as well. I've got a cool graphic on the side ready. You're waiting for it. I just got to get the rankings from this thing. But we mentioned it last week. What we're trying to do is the NFC teams are going to rank the AFC teams and vice versa, because what we don't want is any bias of anybody ranking their team very, very high. Now, at the end of it, we're still saying, who do you think is going to win the whole thing? And I still, on the AFC side, ranked all of the NFC teams, and as good as I think my team might be from a bias standpoint, I still think the NFC is going to win it again this year. In fact, the guy that won it last year, Seattle, Chris Simpson, I put him as winning the championship again this year. And we've got this, side pool that gets built every year where it's $100. That's a carryover, and whoever wins 2 consecutives gets that money. Well, if Chris wins it in the first 2 years, he's going to get $200 extra on top of the money that he's already getting. So he's making a good chunk of change on it in his first 2 years. I would love to see it not happen, though, just for the sake of, I would love to see that pool build and build and build. But not a lot of people have answered the survey so far. The NFC ranking the AFC is doing better. They've had 9 people do it already. And then the only person that has ranked the NFC side from the AFC is myself. So I need more of the AFC teams to get out there and start doing it.
AFC.
Yeah, I've had a couple messages from AFC teams on the side saying that they had problems with some of the ranking and stuff like that. It wasn't allowing them to move things around. And it's a possibility they had problems. So a couple of them are going to go back at it and look at it again. I did give everybody like 2 weeks, and this is only week 1. But in reality, it's a preseason poll. We can wait all the way up until the beginning of the season before we actually release them. I want to make sure that we get 100% participation in it before I even think about releasing the numbers, because I think without 100%, it means nothing. I think everybody should at least go in there and rank these teams. So we originally were going to do it on SurveyMonkey. The way I had it set up on SurveyMonkey, one of the ranking systems that I had on there would cost money to do that because it's one of their special features. It's going to cost $100. And I thought, oh. So Kevin was able to go out there and do something for us. So that's what you see. The links for each one of those surveys are in your conference chat on Discord. So if you're an NFC member, there is a link in there for you to click on to rate the AFC teams, and again, vice versa. It's in there, so just make sure you go out and click on that.
Is it in the chat?
It's in the chat. It's in their channels. I don't think you had. Do you see any of the? You don't see any of the APFL stuff.
Yeah, maybe you should push it out again.
Push it again. I could do that.
I'm sure there's a lot to scroll through.
Not as much in the individual conference chats as there is in the APFL general chat. So if you look, because you don't have access, if you see it, it's got APFL general, then it's got the AFC, the NFC, and then we've got a couple of things under the conference schedules are there, or the season schedules there. Each one of the teams' schedules there. Cool. It's broken down quite a bit. So if you need anything, you can go to one of the particular channels and look it up. Yeah, man, other than that, that was the 3 topics for the night, and I don't think we missed on anything. I think we talked about everything I wanted to talk about. I even asked Toby the same thing. I said, hey, was there anything else we should talk about? Again, thank you to Toby for helping out with the schedule this year. I'm actually looking forward to next year with this new knowledge from both year 1 and year 2 of what we can make year 3 look like and make it look a little spicier. So instead of seeing this, columns or these rows that say, hey, this week is a divisional week, and this week is a conference week, and this week is a strength of schedule week, I think there's a possibility now that we've got a little bit more knowledge behind us, we can mix up these weeks. There'll be some conference games, some strength of schedule games, some divisional games that are in there. We can mix this up. So it won't be this little, pigeonholed, blueprinted, what do I want to call it, matrix that we've got right now. And we might be able to match even more NFL games next year than we did. I guess the goal would probably be as 208 APFL games. If there's a possibility of me matching 30% of those, well, how many did we match this year? 40 out of 208 is what? Math is hard. 20%? Think about 20%. If we could match closer to 30%, that would be really, really cool. So we'd have to get about 70-ish games. So that would be super cool if we could do that. So what else? What else should we talk about while we've got you and me here together? And before we bore that one person, which I believe is probably just you on your phone anyways.
Yes.
With stuff.
The CFL kicks off June 9th.
CFL kicks off June 9th. That's awesome. Are they playing with an odd number of teams this year? Like 9, I think?
Could be, because I think one team
I know in one of the Euro leagues they lost a team. Toby just asked how'd it go. I should tell him to come on in. Let me shoot him a text real quick and tell him to come on in. We're still here. I'm pretty sure they're playing with 9. And the reason I say that is because I did a little bit of research when Matt and I were talking about what we're going to do in the redraft. You're here for the redraft. So what we're going to do for the secondary or the rivalry bowls this year. And I don't know if you heard me say it last year or not. Let me tell them, still in here. Come on in. The water is nice. What we're going to do is we're basically going to run the exact same thing on the below 500 teams as we're going to run on the above 500 teams. So because what I was thinking about doing was trying to match like all the 12th place teams, all the 11th place teams, all the 10th place teams to play like in a 16 bracket. But that's never going to match up because we don't know how many teams are going to go on the above 500 side in each one of the regions. We just know it could be anywhere between 4 and 8 teams. So it leaves a random number of teams on the bottom side for the below 500 teams. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the exact same thing for the above 500 teams. We're going to do for the below 500 teams. And whoever wins that one is going to be considered the 25th or the 49th best team. That's the lowest amount to the highest amount of teams that could go on the winner side, leaving that as the additional teams on the loser side. And that whole bracket, the way all of that's going to work out, we're calling the Grey Cup. And the reason we're doing that is because we have a lot of Canadian players coming over and playing with us this year. Yeah. And when I was looking into that with some of the other ideas Matt and I were bouncing around to each other, I think I looked up how many teams were in the CFL now, and I think it's just 9. I think it's an odd number.
I just looked at 9.
Yeah, it's 5 and 4, right? And they're 2 different divisions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting.
I think it said 4 in the East and 5 in the West.
Okay. I didn't think I was too crazy.
It's not.
This debatable, right?
Little trivia question.
The
CFL sparked me. What city in the U.S. has a CFL championship and an NFL championship?
Baltimore.
Yep.
Baltimore. Yeah. What was the team from the CFL when they were in Baltimore? What was the name of that team?
I think it was the Stallions.
See, that's what that sounds familiar. Yeah. That might have been one of the logos that was used in the defunct league for us. When we were still running the defunct dynasty leagues, might have been the Stallions.
Yep, Baltimore Stallions.
Okay, yeah, I do remember that. I think it's a silver and a blue team. Now my probably still have the logo sitting around over here in my stuff.
They won it in '95.
Interesting. What's it look like? Blue horse with like some streaks coming off the back of its head? Yep, that's the one. That was the team. We had that using that as a defunct team in the defunct dynasties when we were still doing the Alpha through Foxtrot leagues. Yep. Cool. Well, man, it's been 40 minutes. It's the longest show I've done in a while. We're a bunch of talking heads with some Cleveland hats on our heads. So let's get out of here. Next broadcast next week on Wednesday, 24 May at 8:30 p.m. East Coast time. We'll do it right here probably again. I don't think we're quite ready to go over to OBS. I don't think there's a need for it quite yet. I think once we get into the season, we'll do it a little bit more. But got to thank our sponsors. Got to thank Mondo and the boys from the Recast, the official music of the FSA, and then Brandon Valinka and Nature Coast Tailgating and Apparel, the official apparel of FSA. And that's getting to be rolling off the tongue a little bit more and more after a year of not saying that. So it's coming back around. If you like tonight's show, we are exclusively on YouTube now. We're off of Facebook, so make sure that it's subscribe on YouTube, right? Subscribe. You subscribe, hit subscribe, turn a little bell on.
Yep.
That way to let you know when somebody's on all of the rest of the social media. You can like and share. You can follow us. I think it's hashtag iPlayFSA or at iPlayFSA or whatever social media you're on. It's iPlayFSA. Yeah, it's coming across the bottom right now. That the dollar, the pound sign or call the pound sign because we're old. You know that's what you used to call it. Yeah, the pound sign. Go check us out there and follow us and all that, and definitely go follow the Twitter. And well, I guess Twitter's the main part we're putting it on right now, but it's being shown on Instagram and Facebook as well. The bringing the APFL to life with all of the AI art that we're doing. I know you're sharing it every day for me, so I appreciate it.
Really cool.
We put out Kansas City today. That puts us halfway through. I think today was day 16, so we've got 16 more of those to go. I think I'm going to take a little bit of time this weekend and probably put a couple of those posts together and do them on TikTok as well, because I think we've only got 2 things on TikTok. So I don't do no live stuff, but I'll put some still images up there, at least on there. And then don't forget, we are Fanatically Real. Thank you for coming on with me tonight. I appreciate it. And
enjoy it.
We'll have everybody have a good night. You stick around.
Yes,
and
sir.
Then I appreciate it. And then we'll see you all next week.